In order to be awakened, you must be enlightened to the real truth with consciousness. Our world is a matrix, a holographic movie. Get enlightened by watching The Strange Reality with Dave Emmons.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show, The Strange Reality with Dave Emmons. And yeah, I'm a rock and roller. I've played rock music for a long time, 42 years. And I go to sleep with AC/DC. How about that? That's my sleepy time music, AC/DC. Yeah, I play that all the time. I love that band. One of the greatest unknown. They're really known band, but they unknown to a lot of the people. That they draw the biggest crowds, even more than the Rolling Stones and even the Beatles that I've been seeing on the internet. Their crowds are huge. But I love AC/DC. That's why I kind of picked this song, a rock and roll song. But I got a guy who also rock and rolls in this field of UAPs, UFOs, and he's a good buddy of mine. And we do some shows together. And he's my go-to guy, and he's right here now. This is Steve Mera.
Hi, Dave. How you doing? I'm also an AC/DC fan as well. So
really great. It doesn't matter how old you get. I mean, Linus, he's Angus. He's 82.
I know it's hard to imagine that, isn't it? And the way they go about it still on stage is incredible, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. And I'm wearing a striped shirt. They say heavy people shouldn't wear striped shirts, but I'm taking a chance tonight. My buddy here, Stephen Mera, is an investigative researcher and journalist in anomalous phenomena. He is a lecturer and conducts experiments and presentations and is affiliated with several international think tanks specializing in advanced UAPs. We're going to get some insights on some of this disclosure. And he's busier than I am. And I feel like I'm retired and old, and I'm busy like this grind with my books and everything. And still hoping my one book gets on Barnes and Noble, Steve. They're still working on that. Yeah, so that'll help me out. Then I can be happily pursuing my fifth book. So, but and I'm getting a little bit of money from, I guess, whatever. But telling too much of myself. But Steve works with paranormal mechanics, and an author of several books. He's also an author, so he knows the grind that it takes to write a book. But writing the book is part of the easy part. Right, Steve? It's marketing.
You know what? It's putting everything that's in here into book format. I mean, it's very, very tedious. I mean, I could write forever if I just had the time to write. Yeah. But of course, the phenomena is always moving and evolving very fast before our very eyes. And we've got to keep up with that. And that takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of communications, networking, experiments. And then if I do have the time, I'm also sort of trying to work on a couple of books. So it's, I have to take my time with them. It's one of those things, but it can be a bit of a slog doing books. Yeah, for sure.
Writing is tough, but also marketing gets even tougher.
Oh, marketing.
I think, yeah. And also want to go on about Steve. He serves as a head tutor of the UITC, UFO Investigators Training Course. Steve has hosted over 300 international TV shows and serves as a spokesperson for subject-related TV documentaries and movies, collaborating with Fox TV, Hammer Productions, and numerous other organizations. He's busier than me. He is an executive producer and actor and has been involved in these subjects for 40 years. Stephen has a bachelor's degree in science, and you can find Steve's work and book information on Phenomena Magazine, and also the UK shows Fox Outcast, Witness of Another World, and the books, Amazon Books and Google. But I find him a lot on YouTube. Stephen has a lot of YouTube shows, and they're very interesting. And I watch them to try to keep up with them. And I got the last 3, I think, that he got posted. Then we're gonna try to talk about and let him shine some light on. Stephen, you're a great person in this field. What's going on today with you, buddy?
Well, I mean, it's always interesting when I'm in these, I'm part of a number of think tanks, international think tanks, and you'd recognize some of these names that are in these think tanks. And it is interesting. Now, just to say, I would never join a think tank if I knew that the information was not going to come out. I'm not like that. I mean, I'm quite transparent. I always put my work out. Sometimes I've got a little bit into lumber about doing that from certain American authorities who have questioned me about my work and the information I do put out. So yes, that can catch the eye sometimes. But at the end of the day, you know, I get to hear certain things and I know about certain things which are still yet to come. And often sometimes things which I kind of say, okay, I know what's coming. One of those things was in fact talking with religious communities about, I'm not going to say hard disclosure, I'm going to say sort of soft disclosure at first, to see how that's going to be digested, because information, if it's quite critical, it's going to have to be handled in the right way, Dave. And there are some people which are very, you know, religious, devout. And I suppose, you know, their minds might be a little bit dented by some of the things that they're going to be talking about. I know that certain things are going to be coming out. I know some things that won't come out. But like I say, it's a first step in a massive effort.
Right.
I mean,
we've
been doing this for years, haven't we? 80 years, and we've not had this.
Yeah.
If we do get this, it'll be the first time. We'll be the first president to do that, of course, in the US.
And that's good.
But I was aware, and I have said some months back, you know, that there are certain things that are going to be taking place, and now we're starting to see these things unfold.
Right. Yeah, I just been hitting the internet today. The first 2 or 3 stories I've seen about the government briefing pastors and priests, and they went to a particular state, and the guy that was talking is a famous pastor. He's a TV evangelist, and he was doing the talking on this internet show. I don't know his name. I knew of him, but I forgot his name. But he was talking about that the government's briefing them on what to expect and what to tell your congregations.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They want to explain to them, because there is going to be a bit of differences between the Bible and extraterrestrials and their involvement in our history throughout the years that they got to explain. Steve, what do they have to explain to the congregation? What is it?
Well, the problem is that it's very easy for people to jump to the conclusion that we're dealing with some type of demonic forces. That, don't get me wrong, Dave, there will be people out there that will jump to this conclusion. Now, I don't know if I can say some things, but what I can say is that on one of the think tanks I'm on, there is a priest that works for the Catholic Church, and he is aware through bishops information to them regarding some aspects of things that might be coming out now. So it's not just pastors, but circulation, you know, information goes around very, very fast. And I assure you that, you know, there's no pastor somewhere that's just going to have this information solely. With the power of the Catholic Church, and they've got the fingers in everybody's pie, they will know. And of course, we'll be also looking into how to deal maybe with some of this. Is there going to be some aftershock? Some people will jump to the wrong conclusions, but then it's very easy to, because people don't fully understand the aspects of interdimensional phenomena. And it is a word which is a little bit loose, to be honest with you. I mean, we can say, what's important is that we can say it's not extraterrestrial in the way we think. If we are dealing with interdimensional phenomena, which is the word that you choose to use now, and NHI rather than ETs, it's because that narrative change we knew was going to come, and it happened. And I think we talked about this maybe 4 or 5 years before that narrative change came in. So we knew it was coming. They had to do it. But of course, to put us on this new path of, again, discovery, and I'll say again because we've been there before, is that when relating data to the general public, the public aren't controlled. The public will think what they want to think, and people will think different things. Some might actually panic a little bit, and of course, some will turn to the church for guidance, you know, because the church has been very very strict in regarding, well, you know what, there is human, there is angelic, godly beings, and there is the fallen angels. Does it fall into one of those three, you see?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're dealing with interdimensional, what's that actually mean? Well, have we got other dimensions around us? And are they coming through from one dimension or multiple dimensions and interacting with us and then popping back out? There's so many incidents worldwide now that this phenomenon is here. It isn't elsewhere. It's, you know, this is right here. It's at home. It's always been here on planet Earth. It's always been interacting with us in multiple ways, guiding us in some cases, interacting with us, or even manipulating us in some cases. You know, they've got very, very busy plans for humanity. And as we go through looking at humans, we can see and question alterations, little experiments, you know, all these varied other humans which existed, we know, but, you know, the history just wants to forget about them. You know, something was at play, and something is still at play, always has been right from the start. And the thing is that how are people going to handle that? And some might panic and some may turn to the church. Now, these people have to advise their flock, in a sense of case, as to, look, don't panic. We might have to sort of come up with other ideas than those three brackets. There might be another bracket, the way it doesn't fall into that. Because people might think, well, are they the fallen angels? What would you say to that? What's the question? What's the answer? Well, if you ask the church that, what are they going to say? Or are they going to say, are these angels? Is this what we mean when the Bible talks about angelic beings? Because angels never had wings. The fallen angels is no different than an angel. It's just that the fallen. Okay, and they didn't have wings. That came from the kind of the sort of Ezekiel days when they tried to decide, how do we emphasize this superior being? Let's give him wings, you know. So that was a kind of a thing. And of course that happened with demons as well, give demons wings and stuff like that. You know, none of those. And of course, phenomena can style itself to archetypes, what you might think it might be. So people might report those things, but it was never like that in the Bible days, Dave. You know, it was far from that. So people are going to ask, are they angelic beings? Well, what's the church going to say? Are they demonic beings? What's the church going to say? You know, the question is that, you know, why are they actually disclosing information to these religious communities? Well, they must be aware that there is information that is going to come out which could cause some confliction. They must be, because why go ahead and do something like that if you had nothing which is going to cause any concern in the first place?
Yeah, Steve, you know, our vice president, J.D. Vance, he come out and he said he thinks aliens are evil.
You're going to get that. Yeah, you're going to get that. There's a few representatives in Congress that believe that they're demonic. The problem that we have here, Dave, is that, look, don't get me wrong, not everybody has great experiences. Some of these things are pretty nasty and pretty bad. We know that. There's evidence to support that. People don't like to talk about that because they like to look for the love and light in this phenomena. And don't get me wrong, there is some love and light in this phenomena. But just because these things turn up and do something bad doesn't mean that they can't turn up and do something good. You know, I mean, it's no different than humans. Can we judge all humans by a single person's actions? No.
Right.
You know, and this is what we tend to be doing. So there are variations in people's experiences for sure. Though that I am aware of many, many euphoric, beautiful, kind, nice experiences that I get reported. I don't look into them. I don't think the people who have those experiences need the support and help. This is why I look at the other incidents, those ones where they've left a lasting impression, which is very, very concerning about, you know, their experience has been very, very bad, traumatizing in some cases. I support them people because they've got no support, Dave. They don't know who to talk to, or guidance, or even just try and get it off the chest and talk to someone openly, which will listen to them and understand. This is what this is what's required, because I was really surprised when I started doing my research and doing discussions on NHI. Well, it's called NHI Discussions, which is on my YouTube channel, along with my colleague, Nathaniel Gillis, who's an incredible researcher. And I was shocked, Dave. I did not realize that I was going to get so many comments from people saying that's happened to me or it's happening to me. And that's a big concern for me, which is something I don't like, but it's certainly concerning.
Here's another thing, Stephen. I know I've been told this way back, Linda Moulton Hall. If a person has lifelong ET experiences, it's harder for people to grasp, that it's all true. They say, well, why does it last so long with you? How come you've had so many experiences? Well, I do have experiences, and I'm not lying. But now I see people on Facebook. I didn't mention names or anything like that, but they were actually calling out people that they thought were frauds. And if you're an UFO experiencer, ET experiencer, or contactee, and you have these, you're by yourself most of the time. You don't have witnesses.
You are.
Yeah. And so you have to take people for what they're saying. It could be cerebral, but it could be something implanted in their consciousness too, Steve. Don't you agree that everybody has a right to tell their story?
I absolutely do, and I would absolutely support that. Forget what people think, right? And I don't look. You've got to sort of accept the fact that there are people who will not believe this, and that is because these are people who are not experienced it. But I tell you what, once you experience it, Dave, you'd be damn sure it's real. Yes. And you know that, and I know that.
You're hooked.
Because we are both experiencers, and, we've come to learn and manage these things as best as we possibly can, but we don't have the control over them. I mean, there are two methods of the abduction phenomena. There is the spiritual abduction, which is basically just going to take you in your non-physical state, in your ethereal or astral body, and abduct you in that way. But it doesn't mean you can't have physical markings on you when you return, because they can do certain things where it causes the physicality to appear on the body. I mean, look, you can put somebody under hypnosis and convince the mind that that you put a 2p piece on their arm, which is hot, but the arm will blister. And it's the same method. You can come back with markings on your body, even though you've been spiritually taken. But then they can also physically take you. They can manipulate the wall, manipulate the ceiling, and take you through it. Right now, the thing is that I know of a good case. Peter Robbins, who's a good friend of mine, a researcher from New York. He's been investigating this sort of stuff for a long time. A good friend. He was telling me about a case where a guy, it didn't work properly. And he got kind of caught in the ceiling a little bit, and he was severely injured on his back and damaged the ceiling. Of course, something went wrong on the transition through the ceiling. He's been through it a few times through these experiences, but something went wrong, and there was a physicality to it. So they were taking him physically, but sometimes people can be taken spiritually, so they can do either.
Yeah,
and trying to just wrap our heads around that. There were people who say, "Oh, I don't believe it," and I have no problem with that, because I can't expect people to believe such fantastic things without evidence, without them experiencing it.
Right.
But you know what? If they do, if they wish to have some type of experience, it certainly changed their mind, and I'd be there for them to give them help and support. Because it does happen, and to be honest with you, it's happening to more and more people.
Right. That's Steve, covering your giving a synopsis of your YouTube. I know it was about an hour long. It's the I guess the evil aliens or the angelic. We just talked about that, but I wanted to ask you about. You talked about marks in the body. I had something happen to me about a week or so ago. And I told you about the scratches I've had. Yes. They're very fine little needle scratches, but they bleed. And I was in a grocery store. I was in the pickle aisle, and I was talking to a guy he was kneeling down packing the shelves, and he was very friendly. He's in the early 30s. He was talking to me. And I walked away, and I went to the cashier. Well, when I got there, these two fingers were all bloody, and they were stuck together because the blood was so thick. It was kind of like I looked at it and I said, "Oh my goodness!" And the cashier looked at me and she said, "You need a Band-Aid?" I said, "No, it's all right. I'll get out to the car and a little bit of water and paper towel or whatever." But there was a scratch, real fine, just like my other scratches, right across the tip of this finger. and it was bleeding a lot, and it wouldn't stop. Matter of fact, it bled the next day even. It was kind of a deep, like a little, real sharp. Now, is this evil, Steve, that does this and follows you around in grocery stores and can do this?
Well, I'm not going to say it's evil, but what I am going to say is that there are some things parasitic in nature, which are physical inflictors. Now, most people who I deal with physical infliction is people who are quite religious or even devout people.
Okay.
They tend to get inflicted more than the average individual. It's a persecution by phenomenon, and the inflictions can be quite bad sometimes. But you get the minor inflictions, which is your scratch marks, your welts, those things that just seemingly come out the blue. What's interesting is that most people don't feel it. They notice it and they think, "Oh, I'm bleeding. What's going on?"
Yeah.
They didn't actually feel it at the time, which is incredible, really. I mean, are we dealing with something which is so sharp that is so sharp you wouldn't feel it? I mean, it's very profound. But these physical inflictions I've been dealing with now for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen some horrific ones. I mean, I've seen welts, as if someone's just took a birch twig to the back, but they've not felt anything. But then they've got these raised welt marks. Looks like they've been hit really hard by a large stick, be honest with you. But they hadn't felt a thing, and it's this physical infliction. You have to sort of say, okay, there's something responsible for this. Now, what is it that causes that? Is it because then I have to start to look and I have to ask questions? Why this person? Well, most of the time, these people are or have had some involvement in phenomena or have been an experiencer since younger age. And this causes this attraction by some phenomenon that you could consider negative. It causes these minor inflictions to major inflictions, depending on what your status is in regarding your belief in religion.
Steve, I want to put a disclaimer out there to people that I'm not crazy. When I walked in that store, I was in there 20 minutes and I come out. I did not cut myself. I don't remember anything that made that fine of a sharp cut. It was about 3/4 of an inch long, and I don't know how it happened. So I'm just telling people, I'm not saying it's ET or evil. I don't know what it is, Steve, and that's why I'm asking you. Yeah.
Well, what surprises me, Davies, is that, look, I can always expect somebody to sort of say, well, I must have caught myself, or, fine, I understand that. But when it comes to you, Dave, and I've seen some of these images that you showed me over time now, that this is not a first for you. This is a reoccurrence for you. Right. And when you start having reoccurring issues like this of physical infliction, it's not a one-off. It's not, I can't rationalize it. I can sort of say, well, maybe you might have caught your finger, but then when I'm looking at the record of all the other incidents you've had, and I've seen the photographs of the wounds and things, I'd have to say, no, there's something else at hand here. And it's not just you. I can literally count, maybe about 7 people I could say are pretty much identical of having those experiences like you are when you get these inflictions. Now, they are minor inflictions, but they keep reoccurring. The reoccurring inflictions, and they're
so fine of a cut that you don't feel. They look like a little mini laser cut. And if it was an object like an umbrella or something that you scratched your hand on, you would see the scratch marks and it'd be wider scratch, not a real fine scratch, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, there are different methods of infliction, you see, because some are what I would say is non-interpersonal, which means they're externally placed onto the skin from sort of outside. So something looks to have physically scratched or marked an individual. But then there are other people which are, they seem to be what you might refer to as subdermal. So that the phenomena is causing the marks to raise to the skin from inside the body outwards. Now, I've had these marks, but they turn up and these are more associated, though, with sort of more occult negative type phenomena. Right. I've seen this actually appear on people's skin. I've also seen welted hand marks, with long claws appeared
Right.
on the stomach area, of the chest area. I've seen wounds, but these are subdermal. It's just like there's something causing them to cause the biological aspects of the skin to be affected. It really is on a micro level like that microbiological level, that the skin cells are being adversely affected by phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
profound.
Steve, you had a show, Poltergeist and UAP, and we're talking about these things. A lot of people think they're evil, could be poltergeists or evil spirits that are doing these cuts. But you mentioned poltergeist and UAP. Could you sum up what you had in that show that you had,
Sure.
Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when people are having these experiences, Dave, and there are people which are being abducted, but it's not little greys, if that's what you want to call them. It's not. What they are experiencing is fast-moving, dark shadow figures. Now, this keeps popping up from time to time. Now, if you look at the association to shadow figures, they also are noted to have those things reported in poltergeist phenomena. It's also within the world of the jinn. I mean, in fact, I not long ago, I read literally a full 2-page thing detailing a phenomenon. And you'd absolutely guarantee after reading 2 pages that you'd say, oh, I'm talking about UFOs. I'm talking about maybe aliens. And in fact, it wasn't. It was a 1,000-year-old document talking about the jinn. You could not define the difference. Terminology does over the years, we look at things, we call them different things, but there is a defined connection between the poltergeist phenomena, because you get poltergeist phenomena from UAP incidents. People have reported having these strange incidents. Why is there that divide? You've got paranormal on one side and ufological on the other, and some people don't think they're connected, but they have been connected all the time. I mean, even going back to the old Project Blue Book reports where people saw a UFO over the house, a farmhouse, for 40 minutes. But then for 2 weeks, they had poltergeist phenomena right from that night on. It's not by chance this. There's a connection between these. So what I try and do is I try to say to people, don't consider these 2 separate boxes. Consider it's all one box. And the phenomena can adversely change to interact with you in various different levels. Because sometimes if you start doing that, you end up ignoring parts of critical areas of incidents which are UFO related, or even vice versa, are paranormal related, but it's something to do with UFO sightings. So there is a defined connection between the two. And I keep telling people, don't create these boxes, because that's the problem. Compartmentalization is a bad thing.
Yeah. I saw another, I think, let's get this within poltergeist and evil and whatever, what J.D. Vance said. You said that some of these UAPs and ETs, they have godly abilities.
Yes.
And could you explain that, Steve?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's been phenomenon which has transitioned materialistic things into our environment. In other words, it's just appeared from nowhere. There are items which have been relocated one place to another. There are even people which have been bilocated by the phenomenon. Now that's quite godly. And we're talking about beings which have been seen to walking on water. Yes, walking on water, just as Jesus did, according to the Bible.
Right.
There's nothing really within the Bible that these holy beings, we can define them any different than the abilities by NHI, non-human intelligence, associated to UAP. They seem to have the same abilities. And this is what I was trying to get at, because I was only listening to quite a high-ranking sort of priest today talking about possession. And he said the Vatican are aware that, we believe that God allows possession in some cases. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because people really want to define it's black or white. But what if there's a bit of a grey, excuse the pun, but what if there's a bit of a grey area in the middle where, do we really understand God? You know, I mean, look, we consider where we are, Dave. We have been born to a realm which is run by the fallen angels. The fallen angels were cast down to planet Earth, and we are born to their realm. So we are born to their influence. I think the struggle is that we've got to guide our way through all the darkness and all the badness in our world to try and get past it all without being influenced. And then we've done it. We've done it. We've managed to do it. You know, maybe that's the challenge, you know, because we're not born in a spiritual heavenly place where all the good stuff is. We seem to be down here with the fallen angels. So we've got to contend with the fallen angels whilst we're here, and then their interaction on us and on planet Earth. Now, angelic phenomena and fallen angels would not be the difference. What's the difference between an angel and a fallen angel? Nothing. Except it's just one's been taken out of their location and placed somewhere else. I would assume they'd have the same abilities, and therefore can mislead what we experience, you know, because some people might see these or experience these and think it might be a godly experience. In fact, the Vatican's, you know, not long ago came out and said, we've got some concerns that sometimes some of these things are appearing as religious figures, like, you know, the Virgin Mary and so on, when in fact they're not. That's a big problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
that was the supernatural speech I think the Pope made here a few months ago. That he said, be aware that things are happening and that supernatural events will occur. And
how are we supposed to discern what's what, Dave?
Right.
How are religious people, you know, if they were to see the Virgin Mary, how are they supposed to discern that image from a real one or fake one? You know, you can well imagine the concerns and the problems here, you know?
Yeah, Bob Lazar said something, Steve, that on the internet the other day about this Buga spear. The Buga spear, the round thing that was in Mexico, and they're still looking at it, and they said it's 12,500 years old. And actually, Bob Lazar said it's a weapon. And he said it could act as a weapon. And I thought to myself, that's possible because the spear that I saw back in September 19th.
Yes, I remember.
It fired energy at me and shut the car, and it made me weak, and I went down.
That's right.
It was so it must. I agreed with Bob. I said yes, it is. It could be a weapon.
It can be. They are and all. You know, just because it doesn't do something, it doesn't mean it's not weaponized to do so. You know, a lot of people do have the experiences when it's, you know, they haven't interacted that way. Some people have experienced it when they have interacted that way. It's not the first time. You know, I don't know where they get the earring from. You know, how they actually date it to that time. If
the
it's
resin,
you know, I'm really not sure.
They dug the resin, the vegetation out of the grooves. They dug fine dirt or resin from plants, and they was able to carbon date that. It was in the grooves of the sphere. Yeah, Steve.
I mean, okay, that's interesting, you know. But it's you know, spheres, these spheres, these sightings, which are very prominent more nowadays, you know, especially over the last 5 years than ever before. But they're seemingly defying gravity. You know, they're utilizing some form of technology which is profound. I'm not saying that we don't have that technology. We might have some of that technology, but why would we fly an exotic? They must cost a lot of money to make if they're ours. And why fly them in, you know, and just in a field, over a field or over just places for no reason? It doesn't make much sense. But it does go back. There was an incident known as the Betts family sphere some years back, and they were out and they found this sphere in the woods, I think it was, and they brought it home. It was about the size of a football, and they placed it on the table, and over a period of a few days it started to move around and act a bit weird. So they did make a report about it, and apparently Project Blue Book actually investigated. This sphere was taken away. Now they struggled to get it back. They wanted to see if there was something inside it, and but they did struggle getting this back. And I know even Alan Hynek, you know, was on that investigation. And apparently, from what I heard, he received a phone call at the Betts family home whilst he was there to basically tell him to just drop it, leave it, you know. So, you know, it's unusual. And there was a lot of documentation about the Betts family and the strange experiences they had regarding this sphere. But it's an old one. It's an old case. So it just goes to show spheres have been around for a while, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But now there are reports from people saying that yes, these things can fire a laser. They can affect us psychologically and physiologically. They can do a number of things, or generate EMPs, a pulse, you know, affect vehicles, affect electronics you watch and stuff like that. You know, it is very, very strange. Now, what is it? Is it a probe? Is it some type of, because some of them are only this big, so you can't imagine them something being inside. However, can we really understand that? I mean, how do we know how big it is on the inside? Because there are some people that have suggested, some researchers over the years have said they might be able to manipulate space and time so that it's larger on the inside than it is on the outside. I don't know. To me, it looks like some type of technology, physical, hard technology. The phenomena for me represents things which are metaphysical, that they can be physical 1 minute and not physical the next, including craft.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure about what these things are, but we cannot rule out the fact that some might be from foreign agents, like, you know, other countries spying on us and things. But then some of the technologies that these things are producing and the effects on people would lead you to believe that maybe they're not, maybe it's something else. But they're out there for sure, Dave, and people are filming these regularly, and they're not worried about being seen. They just appear in the middle of the day above a building with antennas on. And
I got a few. I got a few. Yeah, I got a few
You've got a
pictures.
few,
Yeah. And Steve, I think why they have it in a sphere fashion is because us humans have balloons that are loose, that get loose. We have weather balloons that kind of look like that. So they kind of figured they'll hide these spheres within that. Because the first time I saw it coming up the highway and I saw it coming into town, it looked like a balloon. I thought, okay, that's a balloon, but there wasn't any wind that day. And I got in town, come back out, and then it was going in the reverse direction. And I thought, this ain't no balloon. So I pulled off the side of the road and I took pictures of it. So yeah, that sphere might be a good idea that these extraterrestrials come up with in order to hide themselves within the balloon thing.
It's some type of technology for sure. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very possible. I mean, you know, I'm very, very suspicious about when people just jump to conclusions and say, oh, it's a balloon. I like to prove the fact that it is, because I know people that have said they've seen things and filmed things. They didn't know what they were. One of these things, a strange looking thing, was up in the sky for about 40 minutes. He was eventually told, this guy, oh, it's an internet balloon. Well, I looked into that and I thought, no. I mean, if it's an internet balloon, it's deflated, right? It's wrapped up on itself and it's staying in the position in the sky for 40 minutes. That's internet balloons don't do that. You know, they're usually big, round and puffy, and they can be quite transparent.
Right.
You know, so I'm not so easily convinced when people just come out and say, oh, it's a balloon. Sometimes they're not. And sometimes we just don't know what the hell these things are when we're looking up in the sky. We don't.
I knew what it was, Steve, when it hit me in the big butt.
Oh, yeah,
you I said, this thing
taking that, wasn't it?
Yeah, this thing is hitting back, you know. But no, that's the thing. They come in all different fashions and shapes. They try to fool us. That's what he's been doing for years. I want to get into sloosh energy. I was talking to Brian Singh the other night, and we were talking about sloosh energy. Could you expand upon that? How they collect it and why they collect it? I think it's the aliens or ETs that do this, Steve.
Well, there's always been concerns over many years about energies that they're using from us or taking from us. And this is why when I mentioned about maybe 10 minutes ago, I said about parasitic phenomena.
Right.
You know, well, this phenomena can be parasitic and people can be drained, energy can be taken. Look, we get that in poltergeist fixation cycles, don't we? We get that from poltergeist phenomena. It can really, you know, people are walking around like zombies sometimes thinking, where's your energy? Well, it's being zapped and taken by phenomena. But, you know, so the thing is what are they doing with this? What are they pooling all this energy for? Now, if I was to talk to Whitley Strieber, yeah, you know Whitley Strieber.
Yes.
Well, if I was to talk to Whitley Strieber, Whitley would turn around and I'll tell you this is exactly what he'd say. He says, Steve, you've got to be careful about these. These things can steal your soul. And I'm like, what? you know. And the thing is that he is openly talking about some of these things can literally steal the essence, you know, of the human soul. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I mean, where do I even start with that? Because it's not a tangible physical thing, you know. But I can understand how energies are taken from people and utilized for something. Now, some of the phenomena takes energies from people and utilizes those energies to create phenomenon or manifest phenomenon. It's like an energy cycle. So they must require energy from somewhere, you know, because the law of diathermics tells us, you know, energy can't just come from nowhere, you know. It's got to be transition. So what is it that they're utilizing? Where they're getting the energy from? Maybe is it getting it from us? Can they produce manifestations and interact without us? Is the question. Maybe that we are contributing. People are contributing, don't even know. And this particular pool of energy could be utilized, or they're just taking it and storing it for something else, whatever that they're doing, you know. But it's parasitic. You know, and there's lots of evidence to support parasitic phenomena in various different groups, topics.
Yeah, I think there's been so much going on. We don't know. We're told we're in a matrix. We're holographic, and our meat suit is the only physical part of us, and our soul is within. And I also heard what you were talking about, stealing souls, Steve. I heard that they could not take our soul. I don't know. Where did I hear that, Steve? Is that true?
Some ETs apparently have turned round to the abductees and said, we can't steal your soul.
Yeah.
But other people are saying, well, yes, they can. You know, especially if you want to relinquish. Now, why would anybody want to relinquish a soul is beyond me. But this is something that Whitley said to me once. He said about people relinquishing the one, you know, they don't want their own soul. I said, who on earth, Whitley, would want to relinquish their own soul? He said, there are a lot of troubled people out there, Steve. And the thing is that I can say, well, okay, yes, there are some very profound and troubled people out there. But why would you want to do that? Is there a gain from this? You know, I don't know. And I don't even know if it's true, to be honest with you, because, you know, is the soul, is something to do with the soul? There's lots of stories that ETs and the soul harvesters, you know, you can get books on this. But when you're dealing with anything which is non-tangibility, like the soul or ethereal or astral body, there's nothing physical to test or examine. So it's very, very difficult to turn around and say, oh, well, you've got evidence to support it or not. You know, what you can say, though, is that I've seen people which have been affected by lack of energy, literally drawn from them. The phenomenon is drawing from them. I've seen that effect on people a few times, and it's not nice. It's quite daunting to see.
I had it happen to me last September for 2 or 3 days after that incident. We were talking about stealing souls. I saw a Twilight Zone show, about writing a contract. This guy signing a contract to sell his soul for riches and value and gold. And so you think this is where the religious part of this thing comes in, where the devil comes in and gives you a contract, Steve?
The thing is, Dave, is that was never... It was perceived wrongly. It was never that the devil then you're going to write and sign a contract with them. However, what will happen is, and it does happen so much. I don't know if you've seen the latest stats coming out from the Vatican, which were released probably about 3 weeks ago. But it's saying now the latest stats are showing occult ritual influence on people is 25% of humanity. 25% of humanity. Oh. That's crazy. You know, the thing is that people are having such bad times in their life because of social conditioning, because of finances, because of struggle, because of war, because of all sorts of different things, is that they are looking for a way out. Mm-hmm. And that way out can be turn to ritual practice, you know, turn away from God. And if you can do that, you will be given rewards. Doors will open for you. Suddenly you'll be, oh, okay, I'm doing all right. People can become gifted right from the lower regions, right up to the very top. and they are utilizing this. Now, the thing is, it's not something that I would want to do, because I always think there's always a price to pay at the end of the day, you know. But it was kind of written in, this has been going on for so long, it was kind of wrote into a stage play. Oh yes, let's make a devil, you know, make a pact with the devil, the crossroads and all that sort of thing, when it never really was. It's always been more subdued than that and quiet. But people have been doing this for a very, very long time, and still doing it even in modern day times. It's happening a lot, but people can get rewarded for turning the other, you know, looking the other way and going the other direction, for sure. You know, and it makes you think, well, people must be that desperate that they think that they have to do that. Because people might argue, well, you know what, I'm religious, I believe in God. Does he reward me? Well, no, not very often. You know, God rewards you internally with health and love and things like that. The external things don't matter. Money, how big your home is, how many cars have you got? It doesn't matter. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that at all. But the other guys will. Oh, yeah, they'll do that. They'll help you get 3 cars and a massive house and never worry about money for the rest of your life. But it doesn't work like that, you see, with God. And the thing is, if people don't think, because they're become so materialistic, if I don't see it, then he's not interested in me. And that's not the case, Dave. And I've tried to tell people that it's very, very easily to be persuaded off that track now. And this is what's happening all over the world. People at the age of 15 and 16 are getting involved in these rituals and things. And they think it's cool. You know?
They're saying that it's not an ideological war, and it's not a religious wars that we're in. We're actually in fighting. Good is fighting evil now. You said there's a lot of people affected, 25%. That sounds like most countries, Europe, Canada, US, Australia, Philippines, they're all experiencing this evil cult thing that people believe that you can kill people if you don't like what they say and get by with it. It's crazy, Steve.
This war's been going on for a long time, Dave. You know, but it is ramping up. You know, humanity's not on a good path at the moment, because we're being tempted away off the good path by the phenomenon. And it's, you know, and it puts on a wonderful display. It's like your ice cream truck coming round with all the beautiful lights on and the music, and saying, hey, I can give you something good if you come my way. You know, and people are getting a bit desperate, and they're going to do things like that. The problem is that what the phenomena does then, it tells the practitioner, the one that did the occult rituals, the ones that it's caught the eye, and it will get them to go and tell their friends, oh, it's great, it's brilliant, you should do this. The practitioners are being used by the phenomenon, and this is how it's gaining, you see. Do you know what? There will be a price to pay, I'm sure. You know, you don't need to. And there is redemption for people that do this. All they've got to do is go back to God, go back to the church, go back to your religion, whatever it be, but be it pure and being it physically of love, you'll do fine. You know, it doesn't have to be any written particular way of doing this. The problem is that the peer pressure from the associates, the friends, you need to do this. Oh, it's really cool and stuff like that. Yeah, that's the problem we're faced with. And this is why we've got 25% of humanity sort of been doing this now. Right. And that's the problem, really.
Yeah, we're talking about Hollywood, too. They said there's clones and double bodies. And then they said that these people sell their souls in order to be famous and rich.
They do, and they actually channel to help write songs. In fact, you can go into, believe it or not, I was told this, because I've been to Hollywood, and I was told, if you're a songwriter, you know, and you've wrote on, if you want that to be successful, I know a guy that can put that into a ritual for you, and I think that song will do well, but it's going to cost you a bit of money. You know, there's all sorts of strange, weird things going on out there, you know, but it happens. But for what? For people don't need to be greedy, Dave. You know, they don't need to have 3 mansions and 7 cars and billions of pounds. You know, you don't have to. You can still have love in your life. You can still be happy without having all that. But they've lost control and they don't realize. And the problem is, it's never enough. Then something more has to take place. Right. Oh, you want more? Well, I tell you what, you're going to have to big up your game then. You're going to have to do things worse then, because I can't. That's a big thing to ask from me. And that's what this phenomena does. And this is why you've got people doing. They wake up one day and go, I can't believe what am I doing?
Yeah.
And you think, well, yeah, because you've been slowly up in the game because the phenomena will keep giving you as long as you quite keep giving it. You get nothing for free out of this phenomena. That's the thing.
And which brings me to the point of your one show, these people who control these 25%, you say the cult thing, there could be some energy or some voices from outside. You have a voice morphing show, and also it's skull to voice technology. Could you talk about that subject, Steve?
Well, there's lots of different technologies around that you're utilizing now. And, you know, it's just reminded me what you're saying there is that MK Ultra,
yes,
talking about voices in your head, which can be produced. Kit Green, which is one guy who I know up at the top, who's still associated to the US government special access programs, some of them being UAP related, in the 1960s and 70s, worked on exactly that sort of thing. And the thing is, on the 13th of May, just coming up, Dave, because it's, you know, it's going to Congress. MK Ultra is being brought up. Yeah. There's going to be questions asked about it. Now, about blooming time as well, to be honest with you, because that is one of the biggest secrets the CIA have been sat on for a very, very long time. You know, they've been manipulating. But do you know how that came to be, Dave? It came from the phenomena. The phenomena can do that. And then they realized we can weaponize the phenomena. And the CIA started weaponizing the phenomena many years ago and utilizing it for its advantage. And that includes making people think that they've been possessed, literally by placing a voice in your head, talking to you, you know, guiding you, convincing you to do something that you might not should or you shouldn't do. You know, these experiments and things have been going on for a very long time. They're very hush-hush. But the phenomena was the first player in the game. And the CIA wanted to weaponize it. Because, why did they do it? Because the Russians were trying to do it as well. And they thought, well, we better try and do it and beat them to it. Because if they can weaponize the phenomenon, we're in trouble. You know, because for espionage reasons, if you can have a guidance and communicate with something which is phenomena, it could be over your shoulders watching what you're writing. Espionage, you could be going back and telling people what you're writing down, looking at what every single thing. You might not be able to hide anything, secrets and things like that. The whole point about weaponizing the phenomenon was really one of the biggest things they're trying to do, the CIA, because they knew the advantages of it.
Yeah. Did you see that video, Steve, that's been on the internet for a while, where this black lady, she's a congressman, a lady, and there was a young lady sitting in behind her. She was mouthing every word that this Congress lady was saying. And then when she was caught, she put her hand over her face like that and went up to the Congress lady and told her to finish up. And they said that she was actually doing that voicing thing like you're talking about, Steve.
Well, the voicing thing is like being a puppet on the string, and it's under the influence. The influence comes in many stages. You know, phenomena first delivered the influence. CIA can back that up now by certain experiments. The thing is, you could just be a puppet on the string in regarding some of the experiments that they've conducted. Absolutely. You know, you might not know, but if you're hearing the words, you might be just saying the words.
Yeah.
You know, it's not coming from you. It's coming from the person behind you who is directing you or whoever it is. You know, there's lots of strange things that people have done under experiments with the CIA, and it's absolutely crazy. But some of this is being illuminated under the MK Ultra stuff, which is coming out on May the 13th. There's certainly going to be hammering them in regarding questions about some of the proceedings that the CIA have been involved in over the years, for sure.
I know Representative Burchard and Representative Luna have been on the cutting edge of disclosure and telling things, you know, just coming out talking about.
They're trying, you know, I mean, but there is an internal battle going on in the Pentagon, and
it is.
You know, they're battling each other. There's people want to keep secrets away from Congress, and the Congress are trying to press them. And what they're doing is they're panicking because they say, well, we're going to come to this base because we heard rumors that you might have some crashed materials and stuff. All right, okay. And in the meantime, it's quick, guys, get it shifted, get it moved, hide it. They're coming. And of course, they come, don't see anything, they go away. These games are playing, it's ridiculous, really. But the problem is that I think I can understand the reasons why, because they wouldn't want Congress to come out and say what the US government have. Because if they do, Russia knows, China knows. They know then suddenly they go, oh, this is interesting. Now we know the level of where they're up to. Maybe that's the reasons why, Dave. It might not just be for the fact that we don't think the public should know. I think they would like the public to know. Keeping this secret is too expensive. These programs that take place, they spend about 25% on the program and 75% on keeping it secret. It's costing an absolute fortune, billions of dollars to keep the secret.
Right. Yeah. I think in summing up here, Representative Burchard said he's been in these closed door meetings, these skiffs, and you said you've been in these think tanks.
I've been
he said that what he heard, he said if the regular person on the street heard what he heard, they wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Do you get that impression, Steve?
Well, I've heard some things which are lucky for me, though, Dave. I'm not a newcomer to this. I've been an experiencer since I was 7 years of age. I've been an investigative researcher for 42 years. I've conducted more than 30 different experiments, some very highly ranking and regarding information. So for me, my bar's been raised, my acceptance level. So it's not going to shock and awe me. To an individual, general public, they're probably going to go, oh my God, I'm going to have a sleepless night tonight. Well, yes, I get that. And there are things I know for sure, which if I was to tell you to the average people out there, they would have a problem with some of this. Yeah, absolutely. But I have not only just heard some of this stuff, I've witnessed some of this stuff. And you do, and I have had, it's not been 42 years, there's not, there's been times when I've struggled. It's kept me up at night. I've not slept right, and it's problems on my mind. And there has been on occasions things like that. Yes, for sure. But that's why I kind of got invited to the think tanks, because I guess they know my acceptance level, and when I hear something, I digest it very well. I don't go into panic mode. I start to analyze it and break it down and pull it apart and try and work out how it ticks and why it does what it does, because there's usually a mechanism behind it. And I guess that's what they like about me, doing that sort of thing. But to the average person, it can be quite shocking to some people, Yeah,
well, Steve, you're enlightened in a consciousness, and those are the two key words that you have to have in order to be bold and look at these things. And myself, I've been through a lot of things. It wouldn't surprise me a bit what comes out. I know they're not going to disclose what the CIA knows and their paperwork. They're not going to do that.
No.
Could you sum up now towards the end of our meeting here? Sum up what you think is going to happen in disclosure, Steve, and when?
Well, it's a bit of a gamble, actually, what comes first. I mean, is it just going to cause this? It's a stage of disclosure. Yeah, it isn't disclosure, because disclosure is putting it all on the table. Can't do that. And I expect that. I mean, people have asked me, Steve, if you were on part of the meetings, if you work for the government, what would you say? Let's go for a disclosure. I'd say, well, no. I'd be honest and say, no, we cannot do that, because we can't tell our adversaries that we've got this, that, and the other. We can't let them know. It's making them think that we might have it is the good thing.
Right.
It's a poker game. I might have the good cards, but you'll never know. That's what it is, Dave. So you can't just show your hand. Something, and it's not because of the public, it's because of the way the world is now. Everybody's holding the cards to the chest. So a lot of this stuff can't be. But I would say, yes, we cannot do full disclosure. But what we can do is certain stages of disclosure. And one of those is the first acceptance that A, we are not alone. B, that they're interdimensional. And 3, that there are various beings interacting with us. And 4, we cannot do nothing about it.
Right.
That is the big problem, is that number 4, because people like security. People look to the government and our military to say, well, if anything happens, don't worry, we've got them. They've got our backs. Well, no, they haven't. There's nothing they can do about this. That's a real big problem, Dave, to tell people that. You know?
Well, Steve, I appreciate what your detailed explanation of this disclosure thing, and you actually hit the nail on the head. I think on those those four statements you made. I like that. I mean, that's good explanation.
It is. We just don't know, Dave. We can't say we can't control the skies. We can't turn around and say, well, we know where they are because we can retaliate. When we can't retaliate because we don't know where they are.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's not like dealing with a normal adversary, is it?
Yeah. In closing, Steve, I know I want to get you into the bed and get to sleep. It's a little bit later over there than it is here in Central Standard Time. Steve, tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be doing next.
Okay, well, I am working more on the NHI discussions. I'm currently working at the moment in advanced ritualistic practices that have taken place in the past, regarding the 9, which is associated to a council of 9 of non-human intelligence. It keeps popping up over time. And we've had some work with what we refer to, or they refer to themselves as lightertons. Interesting. Beings of light that seem to know all and everything. So that's interesting. Don't know what these things are, but it's getting interesting. So I'm working in those experiments. I'm going to continue to do NHI discussions. And I'm doing a new book with Nathaniel Gillis as well. So we're working together on that. And he's an incredible researcher. So people can find more out on. He's got actually a website called Parasymposia. You can find out more about it on there. And you can find out more about my work on my YouTube channel. I always share information, which is Steve Mera Official 2024. That's Steve Mera, MERA Official 2024. And I'm always sharing my research. I put it out there for people to sort of try and digest.
I go through your YouTubes and I pick up
a lot of information. I usually say if people just want to get hold of me, and I will talk with anybody. If they want to get hold of me, I think the easiest way is just to type in my name into Google, really, because there's so many things now. Steve Mera, everywhere. I've been involved in so much. My details are there for people to contact me.
But you're not on milk cartons, right?
Not yet. No, not yet.
I wanted to get into the disappearing people, but we're running up on an hour already. And,
well, we can talk about that next time, Dave, because I've investigated some of them for the police authorities in the UK as well.
Right. I'm going to have a guy on the show soon that he's been followed and he's had encounters with the FBI. He's going to tell me a little bit about that. I've been stalked last year 4 times that I know of, and maybe more. And I've been, you see strange people. So they're out there. They're all mixed in. Steve, they're just out there. But I want to thank you, Steve, again for being.
You're welcome.
Being the I guess the shoulder that I cry on a lot of times. And you've been listening. And once on StreamYard now, once I hang up, we're done. So I'll see you next. I'll see you next time, and I'll give you a message. Okay. What and I'd love to hear more about this missing thing. It might be coming out soon too. Some of the research on that.
I hope so, Dave. I hope so. It's been good. Thanks for having me on, and it's been good talking. We'll catch up soon.
I will do that, Steve. You've been listening to The Strange Reality with Dave Emmons and my guest Steve Mera, who's a return guest. He's my buddy, and he's a go-to guy when it comes to this UAP, UFO topic, and everything that surrounds it, the paranormal. And I want to thank you, Steve, and I want to thank everybody for listening. And good night, good afternoon, and good night to you, my buddy Steve. Bye-bye.
Take care. Talk soon.